I never wanted this assignment. But when the order comes from high command, you don't ask questions, you pack your gear and report to duty. That's how I ended up here, standing at the edge of Blacksite Orion, staring down into a planet that shouldn't exist. It wasn't on any star maps, no official records. Hell, the sector itself had been wiped from navigation logs, replaced with meaningless coordinates. But the brass knew, they always knew. This place wasn't supposed to be habitable, our team lead, Captain Rowe, muttered. Yet here it was. A blackened world, covered in ashen plains and jagged ruins that stretched into the darkness like skeletal remains of something ancient. The atmosphere was dense, breathable, but carried a faint metallic tang, like a battlefield long after the bodies had rotted away. The worst part? The structures, massive, impossible formations of metal and stone, carved, with symbols that didn't belong to any known civilization. They pulsed, dim, rhythmic light flickering like a dying heartbeat. And we weren't the first ones here. 14 personnel stationed before us, Rowe continued, reading from his datapad. None made it out. I clenched my jaw. I had heard the rumors. A scientific team sent to study the ruins, then a military detachment to secure the site, then a recovery crew to find out what happened to the first 2 teams. They all vanished. No distress signals, no bodies, just emptiness. Now we were next, a 5-person squad sent in as final assessment, a polite way of saying disposable. Stole a glance at the others. Lieutenant Rowe, stern, experienced, but his eyes flickered with doubt. Sergeant Lynn, heavy weapons specialist. She didn't talk much, just checked her rifle compulsively. Corporal Vance, medic, but something about him felt off, too quiet, too observant. Private Deck. The rookie, young and jittery, muttering prayers under his breath. Then there was me, Lieutenant Elias Cade, engineer and systems expert, the only one dumb enough to still be asking why the hell we were here. A gust of wind howled through the ruins, carrying with it a sound, not quite a voice, not quite a scream. Deck flinched. Lynn gripped her rifle tighter. Rose sighed. Let's move. And just like that, we entered the darkness. Our boots crunched against the dead ground as we made our way toward the main structure. It stood taller than any human city, a monolithic black tower covered in pulsing veins of dim light. This thing ain't natural, Lynn muttered. She was right. The architecture was wrong, not just alien, impossible. Walls that twisted at angles that hurt to look at. Corridors that stretched further on the inside than they should have. And then we saw it, the colony. What was left of it. Rows of prefabricated buildings, human in design, but collapsed, torn apart. Some of them looked like they had been ripped, open from the inside. Check for survivors, Rowe ordered. I doubted we'd find any. As we moved through the ruins, my skin prickled with unease. The air carried a faint hum, a vibration that buzzed at the edges of my skull. It wasn't loud, but it was constant, like a whisper you couldn't quite hear. And then Lynn stopped. Sir, she said. You need to see this. We gathered around. Weapons. Ready. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. A human body, or at least it used to be. It was fused to the wall. Not impaled, not crushed. Merged. Like the metal had grown into the flesh, or the flesh had spread into the wall. His face was frozen in an expression of pure agony, his mouth open, lips cracked, but no sound came. "Jesus," Vance whispered. I took a step closer, and the body twitched. A single, rasping breath escaped from its lips. Deck screamed. Vance stumbled. Backward. The man, what was left of him, turned his head toward me. A faint voice, barely more than a whisper, escaped from his ruined throat. "It sees you." And then he stopped moving. The hum in the air grew louder. "Fall back," Rose snapped. "Now!" And that's when the lights in the ruins began to turn on. One by one, the black tower woke up. And something deep inside it stirred. The ground trembled beneath our feet as a low mechanical groan rolled through the ruins. The tower was waking up. "Move! Back to the landing site!" Ro barked, but none of us moved. We were frozen, because the walls were shifting, not collapsing, not crumbling, rearranging. What had been a straight corridor twisted, stretched, pulling itself into a new shape, a maze that hadn't been there seconds before. "Did anyone else just see that?" Deck stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Lynn didn't answer. Her rifle was already up, scanning the dark. I forced myself to move, to think like an engineer, to analyze, but nothing about this place made sense. The metal wasn't reacting like normal material. It was acting like flesh, breathing, expanding. The body fused to the wall had told us one thing before he died. It sees you. And I finally understood what that meant. The tower wasn't just waking up. It had noticed us, sir, I said, my throat dry. I think I never finished that sentence. Because something stepped out of the wall. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't a creature. It was a shadow pulled from the metal itself, forming into something tall, humanoid, shifting. Its face was wrong. A featureless mass, smooth, except for a deep, gaping hole where a mouth should have been. Deck screamed. The thing twitched, its empty mouth opening too wide, stretching to impossible lengths. And then it lunged. Lynn fired first. The bullet hit dead center and passed straight through. The thing didn't stop. Lynn barely had time to shout before it slammed into her. 1 second she was standing, the next she was part of the wall. Fused, just like the others. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Then she stopped moving. The thing turned toward us, and the tower itself rumbled in satisfaction. Ro dragged me back. Vance grabbed Deck, who was still screaming, shaking his head like he could erase what he just saw. "Run!" Rose snapped. We didn't argue. We sprinted blindly through twisting corridors that didn't match our maps. Every hallway we turned down was different than before. The outpost was changing, adapting, trapping us. "We're not making it out," Deck sobbed as he ran. "Shut up!" Ro growled. "Keep moving!" Something slammed into the walls behind us, the echo of footsteps, but not normal ones. Too many, too fast. More of them. We reached what should have been an exit hatch, but the door was gone. Just smooth, blackened metal. The tower had swallowed it. "Where now?" Vance shouted. I scanned the room, heart pounding. The only way forward was down, a spiraling staircase, descending into the dark. "No," Deck whispered. "We can't go down, we can't." A deep, inhuman sound echoed behind us. Something crawling. Fast. We didn't have a choice. Rose shoved Deck forward. "Move!" And we ran down. The deeper we went, the worse it got. The walls weren't walls anymore. They pulsed, A sickly, reddish glow ran beneath the surface, like veins beneath skin. The hum was louder, vibrating in my skull. This place wasn't built, it was grown. Ro was limping now. Deck had stopped talking altogether. Vance kept looking over his shoulder, muttering, "Not real, not real, not real." Then the stairs ended, and we entered a chamber, a massive circular void, too big to exist beneath the ruins, and at the center we saw it. Not a machine, not a god, a heart. It hung in the air, suspended by shifting tendrils of black metal. It was alive, pulsing in slow, heavy beats, and on its surface, faces, dozens, hundreds, trapped in its flesh. Their eyes rolled in agony. Their mouths opened in silent screams. Lynn was there. So was Parker. Joska. The entire missing colony, absorbed, consumed, still conscious. Deck fell to his knees, hyperventilating. We were never meant to come here. This isn't a ruin, it's... A trap, Vance finished. And then the heart spoke, not with words, not with sound, with a voice that tore through our minds. More have come. More to feed. I felt it reach for me, not physically, but mentally, stretching cold tendrils into my thoughts, my identity. Trying to pull me in, I fought, and I saw something, a memory, not my own, the first humans who landed here, their joy, their discovery, their terror. Then I saw the creatures, the shadows. They weren't just hunting, they were feeding. Because this thing, this heart, wasn't a god, it was a prison, and it was hungry. I don't remember running, I barely remember the screams. All I know is that Ro didn't make it. Neither did Deck. It was just me and Vance by the time we reached the upper levels. The creatures didn't follow, they didn't need to. They knew we wouldn't tell anyone, because the moment we left, the ruins began to vanish. Not collapse, not disintegrate, just unexist. When the retrieval crew arrived, there was nothing left. No ruins. No outpost? No bodies? Nothing. Just an empty crater, like the planet itself had decided to erase all evidence. I'm the only one left, and I don't know how long that will last, because sometimes at night I hear the hum again, faint, distant, but getting closer, and I know it's still counting, waiting, and soon it'll be time to feed again.